Here we are. Welcome back to another episode of The Scoop Around the Loop. We've got Andrew here, we've got Brady here, we've got Tyler here, and of course myself, Thomas Minert. How's everyone's day going?
Going good.
So far, so good. It is super, super cold, as everyone knows.
We've got a heat wave coming.
Remember, obviously recency bias, but it's kind of crazy.
I literally just read a comment that my grandma left on a post, and she says at the end of it, and by the way, when it warms up, my car needs washed.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, Andrew is a really good grandson and will take grandma's car and get it washed about every week, right?
I haven't done it for a long time, so that's probably why she's gaslighting me.
Well, it's also been too cold out to get your car washed.
Yeah, my car is super, super dirty right now, too.
Do you want to just, because we're talking about the cold weather, you want to just swoop into the having your home listed in the winter / any winter home maintenance tips we have?
Yeah, because we're real estate agents and we know this stuff. I think that's actually a really good point we start here with a little video that Tyler wants to show.
Oh yeah, let's do that first. Yeah.
Yeah, pull it back up.
Daddy do for What does Daddy do for work? Is he good at it? Yeah. He is? Yeah. What does Daddy do for work?
Then he runs off. He's just been saying that, and he's been saying that a lot. And Hannah is a nurse, obviously, and whenever he has like an animal or something, he'll like lay the animal on his back and say, I'm like mama or something like that. Just he's been really into like what we do for work all of a sudden the past couple of days.
My little niece that is 5 now just started a new school, and they had her do a project talking about what she loves. And she mentioned that she loves hugs from her sister, she loves mom, and she loves being outside. And no mention of my brother. So
that's fair, man.
Dude,
okay, we'll talk about this. Your dad is hilarious. That's all I gotta say to a couple of your recent posts on Facebook. But this is not podcast related.
he thinks he's really funny. Shout out to my dad if he's watching. It sounds like we already got a few people watching right now. Dad, comment if you're watching.
He's hilarious.
Be funny, I guess. I don't. Okay, having a listing in the winter / just general winter maintenance. Brady, what do you got? What's the tip?
Check your heating system. We did not. So about 2 years ago, I want to say, we had never checked our heating system since we got it. Parents bought the house in 2005, something crazy like that. Went out on us, couldn't get anyone scheduled. So we were living in a 50-degree house for a week. It was horrible. So schedule that, professional heating inspection, get that done. And a tip from Home Depot is halfway through consider changing the HVAC filter, because in the winter months, the furnace fan works and pulls in a lot of that air just filtered with dust and dirt, stuff like that. It's just better to be safe than sorry. So
yeah, the filter is a really good tip. I mean, I know it's something that everyone's supposed to be doing for home maintenance, but in really cold days like this, it's working extra hard. So if your filter's clogged up, it's just going to make things even worse. Yeah, Andrew, what do you got? You shared one the other day that I don't think a lot of people think about.
I think as it relates to the filter, in November-ish, my wife was saying man, it is so dusty in our house. I'm like, well, I just changed the filter, so I don't know why. And I always put the date on the filter when I put it in, so that I can just look at the furnace filter and see when I changed it last. It had been 4 months since I had changed it, and I'm like, well, dang, that went by quick. So I changed it, and sure enough, it was just super dark gray. Then when just a couple weeks ago, my wife was saying the same thing. Our big kids' rooms are above the garage, and when the filter gets dirty, there's more dust. And I was like, I literally just changed that filter. I don't know what's going on. And then sure enough, it had been since November. So it had been another couple months. And so I think we forget to change it often. And so, yeah, definitely that. But the tip I shared, because it was so cold, was if you have any plumbing that runs along an exterior wall. So like if you have a kitchen where your kitchen sink looks outside the window, like that would be an exterior wall example. Some bathrooms that, you might have exterior wall or a sink along an exterior wall. If that's the situation for you, or the case, open up your cabinet doors so that the warm air can circulate through that under counter space to keep kind of the warm air going against your pipes so they don't freeze. Kind of,
My dad's calling me.
Tell him we're on the podcast.
Like he heard his name 3 times. And then
I should actually text my mom because she's always like, I never know when this is going on. I'm going to do that.
Well, in case anyone that never catches it when it's live, it is available on your Apple Podcast app, your Spotify Podcast app, your Amazon Podcast app, and it is on my YouTube page and the Springer Brothers YouTube page. And, of course, you can go back and watch it on Facebook, too.
On it. Good plug, Tommy.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, so furnace filters, opening your cabinet doors.
Yeah, and I would say to Brady's point about the furnace filters, it's one of those things that, again, everyone knows to do it, but for some reason, on like every 3/4 of home inspections, when the inspector goes and looks at the furnace filter,
It's so clogged. Yeah.
So obviously, it's something that's forgotten quite a bit.
And I'm sure you guys have heard this from home inspectors. A lot of new builders bring this up too. You're actually, if you want your furnace to operate more efficiently, you're actually better off getting the cheaper ones and just switching them out more often.
Mm-hmm.
So back
The
when I
furnace
was,
filter?
yeah,
Yeah.
back when I was more on top of it, what I actually did was I found it on Amazon and subscribed and saved, and they're the 1 month filters, and I just had them show up every month, so I knew when it showed up that it was time for me to just switch it out.
There it is.
Well, Tyler, what do you got? Winter home tip.
Winter home tip. This isn't so much like cold, but when you get heavy snow and lots of wind, you got to be careful of the drifts on the side of your homes that could cover up like the exhaust vents.
Yep.
I saw it on my neighbor's house whenever we got that big snowstorm, just because there's vents for whatever reason sit a little bit lower. They cleared them out. I saw that he had cleared them out the other day. They weren't covering his vents, but if you wouldn't have cleared it out, that could cause some bad things to happen inside the home. So for my house kind of sits on a hill. So like the wall that I'm looking at right now is on the bottom of a hill. So my exhaust vents sit pretty far up above the ground. But I think back to like our first home in Beaverdale, that much, much smaller, that would get covered up by snow drifts. I mean, anytime you had over 3 or 4 inches of snow on the ground, it seemed like. So
yeah, our house, we have a crawl space under our kitchen where like our heater goes, or the vent for like our water heater and I think our furnace too. And that's really low to the ground right there. And so if that wind starts kicking in, it does definitely cover up pretty quick. So that's a great example, keeping that clear. I got one more. Unless you have,
What do you got?
Do you have one, Tommy?
Well, I was going to more mention stuff on the real estate side of things. Some things to think about if you're either buying or selling in the winter. Buying.
There's your mom. Hey, Mom.
Buying. This is sometimes something you can't avoid, but if you can, when you get an accepted offer on the place, try to get the inspection done when the roof isn't covered with snow. Because if it's covered with snow, your inspector is not going to show up early and clear it off so they can actually inspect the roof. If they can, sometimes they will offer to come back later when it is melted off. But I've run into situations where there just wasn't enough time in the inspection period to get it actually properly looked at before the inspection period was up. All they could do was inspect what was visible. And then I was going to say,
which they can see in the attic too. You know,
yeah, yeah, and that's
to see if there's water. You know,
and that's what made the buyer more comfortable. Is like, well, they inspected the attic and there was no clear signs of leaks or anything like that, so they knew that there was nothing that was actively a problem, but you still could miss like worn out, damaged shingles and stuff like that. So you would miss more minor problems, but you still aren't going to get a full look at the roof. And then just as far as listing goes, it is a much better experience for people coming to look at your home if you actually do an adequate job shoveling all the snow and taking care of it. I can't tell you how many vacant listings I've showed up to where they shoveled, but they really only did like one shovels with a spot that you can walk up to the listing. They didn't shovel the driveway, and it just starts to showing off on a bad note.
I showed a handful of new construction homes a couple of days ago in Polk City, Ankeny, and Bondurant, and all the Ankeny ones were cleared out, but the Polk City and Bondurant ones, and it snowed a handful of days ago. They were still all covered in snow, and then you go in and there's no rug or anything like that by the front door.
So you just track snow through the whole house?
Just tracks snow through the whole house. Or you take your shoes off, but then the floor is already super dirty from everyone else already in there. So, shovel your driveway if you have your home listed and it snows, and make sure you ideally you give a big rug for people to wipe their feet and a place for them to put their shoes, or you have booties sitting there that you can put in their shoes.
And like, what was it? Is that 3 years ago now that whole lawsuit came about where someone slipped and fell while they were showing a buyer was looking at a listing?
Yeah, and the listing agent, I believe, had shoveled.
Yeah.
And so because they didn't do a good enough job, and the opinion of the home buyer, I'm generalizing a little bit, there may have been some exposure from a liability standpoint for that agent because they shoveled. And so just so people know, generally agents now are kind of instructed not to help shovel. Don't shovel. So it's kind of really on the home seller. I would also argue if it's snowing and it's cold, there's going to be a higher likelihood of ice. And so you as a human being have a higher duty of care to watch for that, or higher due diligence to watch for that. One more thing, obviously those things are related to listing in the winter. I'd say one more thing related to just overall home maintenance or preventing things that need maintenance is make sure you crack your windows just a little bit, just so I think the natural inclination is if you have blinds to shut them all the way down to the sill, to not allow any of that cold air to come off of that window. But what happens if that window doesn't have that warm air hitting on it, like bouncing off of it, you get a lot of frost built up on that window. And that's when you start to see, when you see homes that have really worn windowsills, it's a result of, more than likely, of condensation from that frost. And so I know it seems counterintuitive to leave the window cracked a little bit when it's so cold outside, but by leaving the window cracked just a little bit,
the curtains are the drapes, right?
Right. Not opening the window, but leaving a gap between your window coverings and the glass itself.
Yeah. All right.
That's a good tip.
Winter tip. All right, so let's talk about something Andrew is really, really passionate about. Let's talk about the plans for CyTown up in between Jack Trice Stadium and Hilton Coliseum. What used to just be a whole lot of concrete is now going to be a whole lot more. Andrew, do you want to kind of just give a summary of what all they proposed, and then we can talk about, in our eyes, pros and cons?
Yeah, so I mean, high level, Iowa State University has, kind of what that picture is right there is where the tailgate tents used to be, like right down the middle. this is a parking
This
lot.
this is showing Hilton Coliseum, right?
So you're looking from Jack Trice,
Yeah, from Jack Trice to Hilton. Yeah.
essentially, or from the south looking north. And, I think the idea is you have this huge parking lot, acres and acres and acres of concrete that doesn't really get used for 340 days out of the year, aside from football and basketball games, maybe a concert here and there.
And it really only gets used, a lot of it really only gets used for like bigger basketball games, correct?
Yeah, I mean, when Northwest South State comes to Ames on a Wednesday in December, people aren't going to that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, but let's just call it 340 days. You have 340 days of it not being used, and that's a lot of potential revenue generating real estate otherwise. And so what Iowa State has done is created, this is something that's been in the works for a long time, created kind of this entertainment district to connect Jack Trice to Hilton, to create both a revenue stream and kind of enhance the game day experience, but have a revenue stream kind of year round too, with kind of mixed use buildings where you have retail restaurants on the lower level, residential units on top. I'll get in. Maybe you can understand maybe my opinion on this, but it all leads to what
there's a hotel coming in too, correct?
Yeah, you see it in that picture between Hilton Coliseum and CY Stevens, and it'll be a Marriott. I mean, that's kind of cool. They're going to call it the Cardinal. And then in that green space that you see kind of right down the middle, it's going to be a big amphitheater with they're going to call it the Silo, CY Low. It's going to be Suck Up or Souk Up. I don't know how to say it. Is like the the branding sponsor of that. So. All in all, I think it's kind of supposed to be, like a Power and Lights, Title Town. I think that's what it's called in Green Bay. Kind of that where it's, when there's not a game going on, that you still can come down or go to that part of town and have something to do. That's the high level overview of that.
Do you want to? Well, I think we already got some of your opinions, but if you want to start out, what do you think is your biggest pro to see in this, and what do you think is your biggest con to see in this?
I think it putting real estate to use that otherwise just sits there. It's otherwise just concrete. It has a low kind of tax valuation, and really probably doesn't generate any taxes because it's a state entity. But now you have the opportunity to put maybe more people in it. Living around there, you have more restaurant and retail options. You have maybe office spaces. The only thing I believe that's been announced besides the hotel and that amphitheater is McFarland Clinic. I don't know. Does that move the needle for anyone going down there? And so like this, all these things are laid out. Like they're all accounted for. The only thing that's been accounted for is McFarland. And so going into my cons, Ames has a lot of retail and restaurant options. The population's only so big. Are people going to drive from Des Moines to go to this on a Tuesday night? Probably not. Maybe they'll drive from Ankeny. I think the concept is cool, but on the flip side, you're converting parking space into a revenue generating thing. But I think the issue that we run into now, at least for people like me who don't give thousands of dollars to the school and have a parking pass, is where do you park on game days? It's already hard to find parking. But now you've taken that away, and now you're inviting potentially 5,000 to 10,000 more people to come in on game days to be a part of this environment, to game watch at that amphitheater. Where are they going to park?
Yeah.
And so those are the things that like I kind of see, like it's almost like they're going to rob Peter to pay Paul. They're going to take from other local businesses, they'd go to Hickory Park, and I'm not saying like some of those places couldn't use some competition, but to up their service and quality.
Quick
But
pro tip on that: cornbread in Ames is better than Hickory Park is.
Yeah,
Just saying.
I agree 100%. But cornbread is also much more expensive than Hickory Park.
Yeah, whatever.
That's the draw with Hickory Park. I don't like Hickory Park. They don't use like garlic salt and stuff.
Tyler, do you have any? What are your pros and cons?
So my big pro is, I mean, it's cool, and I think once it's all set in stone, and in like 10 years, if all this actually comes to fruition, in 10 years everyone will be adjusted to the things like parking and things like that. And I mean, surely they have some type of idea of what to do with that. My biggest pro, like Andrew said, it kind of reminds me of Titletown. Now, this would kind of be bigger than Titletown, or maybe about the same size, I guess, which is in Green Bay. My best friend lives in Green Bay, and we've been up there a couple of times outside of football season. We've been up there a couple of times during football season too. And Titletown is where we go even outside of football season. They have a couple cool bars and restaurants, brewery called Hinterland up there that I love. So again, I think that's kind of part of the concept of it, is again to get people up there year round and shopping around. I think, for the sake of like just recruitment and likability, or raising your brand, it's a good move. But to Andrew's point as well, the whole thing, I think of like a restaurant like Sweet Caroline's or Cornbread, or just places like that, I mean, now I would imagine if they do fill this place out, those places might be struggling a little bit because, again, Iowa State's not the biggest university out there. Ames isn't the biggest city. I think if Ames was like 20 minutes closer, 15 minutes closer to Des Moines, this would make a lot more sense, and there wouldn't be as many reservations about it. But yeah, I don't know. And then part of me is like, okay, if they can find all this money for this, how about we just pay a quarterback once Rocco Beck leaves, and that a really elite quarterback will probably bring you as much revenue as all this would bring you.
Or renovate Hilton Coliseum so they can have fresh made food at concession stands, because right now they can't do that because there's not an adequate ventilation. So
yeah, can they get, what's up with those satellites outside of Hilton? There's no way those things are still actually functional, right?
I don't know.
They got those ancient Roman satellites sitting outside of Hilton that have been there since I was little, and they haven't changed at all. But I don't know. As people know, I love Iowa State. I think of certain aspects of this will be really cool. They said that there's going to be a football field somewhere in there.
Yep.
Again, Titletown has that. That's always super, super fun, especially on game day. Kids are going to love that. I'm sure.
There's also a pretty cool kids park planned to be out there too.
Yeah. Like Iowa or Isaiah, my son will have memories at this thing for sure. If it all happens like this. So
yeah, like, and don't get me wrong, like I think it would be great for Iowa State if it is fully leased.
If they figure out how to actually get it done, how they say they're going to get it done.
Yeah. I mean, I think it'd be great for, promoting Iowa State University. It's going to be owned. I mean, it's owned by the athletics. I think the athletics department, if not the university, but yeah, I mean, I have some other thoughts. I'll let you guys.
Brady, what do you think? What's the biggest pro and con you see?
This isn't Notre Dame, so he don't care.
You're right. They'll never be Notre Dame. I'll put it like that. But no, I don't know. I'd say biggest pro. I really like the silo that we were talking about earlier. I think it's absolutely sick. They have, like, on the pictures it showed, they just have huge like screens on the side and all the way around. I think it's really cool. I don't know how big it'll be, like if you'll have like actual like outdoor concerts out there or anything, or if it's just more like live music kind of in the background. But I don't know. Either way, I think it's cool. Just another part of it. Cons, I don't know. I don't see this happening by 2027.
Yeah, I I was
Like-
kind of doubting that myself.
Yeah, like you just said, it like if they do what they say they're going to do and execute it that way, it'll be really cool. But I don't know, just it's a lot of space to get stuff in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of I think a lot of this is to entertain or to kind of entice the big time donors to donate even more. You know, like that
Yeah.
Cardinal Hotel, like that's for the big time wealthy alumni that live out of state that come in for a couple games a year. Like, can you imagine what those room prices are going to be for an Iowa game
Yeah, it's gonna be insane.
or a Kansas basketball game or, you know, anything like that? It's going to be pretty wild.
Yeah. I think just from my standpoint looking at it, I think the biggest pro is I think this is going to help them a ton retaining people that come from out of Ames to come to the games and have them stay and spend money in Ames.
Yeah.
Because I would guess, I mean, you guys have gone to a ton of games there. I mean, you see how much traffic is coming from Des Moines to Ames every single game day. And I think it's going to encourage those people to either come early, spend money in this district, or if it happens to be an early game, stay later and spend money in this district. Because, like, from my standpoint, I hate driving in traffic. So from my standpoint, I think if I was going to a game at 11 at Jack Trice, I'm going to go to one of these restaurants after and hang out and eat and just wait for the traffic to die down and then leave, you know? Or show up early, hang out, and then go to the game and not have to worry about all
Yeah.
of that.
I think what a lot of people's argument is like you could do that at your car when your car was parked in that parking lot, you know?
True.
So like,
yeah, it does really
I don't
ruin.
think anything other than what Andrew was talking about with like, it's just a lot of real estate sitting there not making any money. Like
Well,
the cool experience about Iowa State before they broke ground was the fact compared to like a Kinnick or something like that was like all the tailgating was literally outside the stadium.
yeah, it was right there. Yeah.
You could go to 15 different tailgates in 3 hours. You know what I mean? Like if you wanted to, because it was all right there. And now it's much more spread out all the way across the stadium. And like, I mean, me and Andrew tailgated a couple of times in the grass lot, the grass lots, which is what to the east of the stadium. And you know, people that are tailgating in those concrete parking lots.
Yes, south. It's south, so yeah, it's far away.
Yeah, like that's not on the table anymore. Like if you're tailgating on separate, unless you get there hours and hours in advance. But so that again, I think that's some people's frustration, especially a long-time Iowa State fans. Is a lot of Iowa State fans don't see it. Nothing was wrong before, you know, like that concrete parking lot was like a signature because it was just full.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the weirdest thing about it too is everything in the plan seems to really make sense, like and flow really well together. I don't understand why they have that clinic there. I mean, I get that it's one more thing in there that will bring people to the area and hopefully they'll spend money elsewhere.
I think
logistically
it makes sense for McFarland being there versus, you know, it is a central location in Ames. I also, you know, we're sneakerheads in here. I mean, can you imagine I'm sure this will not make it to Iowa State Athletics Department, but can you imagine someone comes in and says, oh, we're going to put in a shoe store, and everybody gets super excited. And the only thing they have at the front or anywhere are Nike Monarchs. I think that's how CyTown is being set up. Like it's a cool idea. The wrong person's running it. And
Jamie Pollard.
Yeah. So,
yeah. And I think, again, to go back on it, I think a lot of people would just be super happy if he just let beer be served and just keep the parking lot.
And Thomas,
I think it will be very cool when it's all done. But
I think, Thomas, to your point, you know, I agree with you that, you know, like the game's over, go have a beer or go, you know, eat a hamburger while you wait for traffic to clear. The problem is like we said, who's going to do that 300 and the rest of the 340 days of the year? You know,
right.
So I think on game days, I think it'll be very full. And then I mentioned, and maybe we wrap it up with this, but I mentioned the very beginning, housing. They have a theory or a thought or a plan that donors are going to buy up those apartments. I know one of those. I don't know what the going rate is for all of them. I know they've been asked to pay $2.5 million for one apartment for 10 years. That's what one of those are going for. So and you lease it. So after 10 years, you don't even get it, and you can't VRBO that, like, outside of game days. It's just, you have to really love Iowa State, I think, to want to do that. And I think at some point, someone might say, sure, yeah, I'll buy I'll lease one of those apartments, and then, by the way, we're not giving as much to the football team or the athletic department. It's not like it's new money. It's just money being moved around.
Yeah.
And, that's my opinion. Obviously I'm not in that role, but from an outsider's perspective, I think there's things that'll look really cool. And I think there's things that maybe haven't been thought out. So,
well, and I think, despite what all you said too, I think if it happens and if it ends up being there, I think you're going to end up enjoying it.
I agree. I mean, I think overall, maybe it doesn't always come across like this. I'm a pretty optimistic person. Like I can see a vision sometimes. Like I wouldn't have thought of that, or like, I don't want that risk, but I want all the best things for Iowa State University. But this is one where I'm just like, man, I just don't know. I hope so. I just don't know that this is the right thing right now. But at some point, you got to do it if you're going to do it.
In 5 years, when I'm like standing in, with a drink in my hand, watching my kid play on the football field, I'm going to be like, dude, this is awesome. But like, it's a big vision. So there's a lot of things to doubt, I guess, because the vision is so big. But I mean, I didn't go to Iowa State. I buy season tickets and support them, but I'm also have no leg to even really have an opinion personally, because I don't even have debt to Iowa State like a lot of people do.
Yep.
All right. Well, you guys want to talk about your new listing that just went live? I think yesterday. Was it yesterday?
We just sold it. No, I'm just kidding. That'd be cool. 2 weeks in a row. I call it the podcast effect.
Andrew, you want to give a quick?
This is 4651 Elm Street in West Des Moines. This is the next street to the west of where our parents live, so our neighborhood. So we're obviously very biased to the neighborhood, and it is a really, really nice neighborhood. It's in between Valley West Drive and 50th Street in West Des Moines, just north of the railroad tracks. Really, really big house, over, it's like 3,600 square feet, finished, just about 3,000 on the main and upper levels. And one of my favorite things about the house is there's just so many different rooms. There's a front living room that kind of extends into a dining room, or what could be set up as a dining room, that leads into a office, which this home office is in like the back corner of the house. Normally, home offices are like in the front of the house. And then that leads to a sunroom, which leads back to the kitchen that you see in the picture there. And then to the left of the kitchen is that vaulted ceiling living room. So the main level, if someone has a big family, or they like to entertain or host family on holidays and stuff like that, I can't imagine you need much more space than this place.
Brady, you got a chance to check out the listing. What stood out to you about it?
Yeah, so my favorite part, there's a little balcony that just kind of, what is it? What should I call it?
Overlook? Balcony's fine.
Yeah. Just right on top of the living room. You can't see it in any of these pictures, but I mean, just my 10-year-old self, great for Nerf battles, trick shots. I mean, I probably would have climbed on top of it and lined some pillows or mattresses up and then jumped off of it or something.
Yeah, 100%.
I wouldn't recommend it, but I definitely would have done it. Had some awesome Nerf battles, but fun place for the kids for sure. But other than that, it's just really cool. Like Tyler said, ton of rooms. Really like the vaulted ceiling in the living room. But yeah.
Andrew, when you walked through it the first time, what stood out to you about it?
Well, it's massive for that area, especially. It's 3,000 square feet between just your main level and your upper level, and like Tyler pointed out, where those special rooms are. A lot of times these houses have a family room that you use as an office, or a living room that you use as a reading room, or a den, or a craft room, or a kitchen that you also use for your dining room. This main level has like each types of those rooms. So the front, you have they have a piano there, and there's kind of a seating area. In our house, we have a similar room, where there's no TV. It's just chairs, and you chat and you read or whatever. And then a dedicated dining room. And then you go into the dedicated office space. And then there's another room that connects to the office and the kitchen, where it's a sunroom, Four Seasons room, where it's all windows all the way around. So you have another kind of living area, and then your kitchen, you have room for a table as well. And so that it really has a lot of space. And then right off of the sunroom is a huge kind of 2-level deck as well, to the backyard. So there's a lot of space in this house to do a lot of things. And then even in the lower level, there's another kind of flex room that can be used as an office that has built-ins. There's built-ins everywhere in this house. And truly it's hard to price it, because there's it's such a unique house, I think, for that area, just because of the square footage alone. Upstairs, there's 4 bedrooms that one of the bedrooms could be 2 bedrooms. It's so big. And then the master bathroom really feels like a spa, like you're in a spa when you're in there. It's very tranquil. So it's a cool house.
I think the biggest thing, this might be a hot take, you guys might disagree with me. Don't you think colonial style houses just look cool from the front?
Yep.
I mean, I drive by them all the time, because this area in West Des Moines has a ton of them. And I just think, I think they look so big and so impressive that it's just, every time I drive by one, I just think it's really, really cool.
Oh, same.
And, yeah. And then just feeding into it, I do think there's starting to be a shift back to people wanting more of a traditional floor plan. And this has it. I mean, you guys have basically been talking about that. Like, there's so many different rooms that you have kind of a space for everything. You have a dedicated office, you have a dedicated sunroom that could be like a game room, whatever. Or, I mean, you have multiple different places that you could set up to entertain family and everything like that. I think that just has a ton of potential to it. Part of that is just because of how much finished square footage you have. I mean, if you were to, I hate bringing this up with resale houses, but if you were to build something like this now with this much finished square foot, that would be a little bit of a price tag.
Yeah, you're the 800s, 900s easily, a new construction home like that. So
possibly more, honestly. I mean, just So there's just a ton of potential in it and stuff like that. So
like Tyler said, it's right down the street from where we grew up, where Tyler more so grew up than me. But we have a cousin that lives on the street. Shout out to Julianne.
Very, very good. This is a dying thing. I feel like very, very good Beggars Night neighborhood.
Oh, heck yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Pretty much all the houses participate. In my neighborhood, there's like 2 houses that participate. So if that matters to you, if you're an observer of Beggars Night, this is a great Beggars Night neighborhood.
Are you guys doing an open house at this one?
Not sure.
We will eventually.
Yeah.
Eventually. Well, in the meantime, there's going to be no open house. So if you guys want a tour of it, you're going to have to call one of us for a private tour, or call another real estate agent, I guess. But maybe just call one of us.
Yeah. Do they have a podcast?
That'd be the easiest thing to do. Would just be to call us.
Yeah, we could get that set up. Last thing on the docket. We want to give people a peek into what we do outside of real estate. So I thought we would just start ending all the episodes with talking about what we have going on this weekend outside of our real estate lives.
Okay, you go first.
Me go first. Okay,
yeah.
Well.
Me go first.
Me go.
I don't know if it counts as weekend, but tonight, mom's taking me out to dinner to Cooper's on 5th.
Oh.
Pretty stoked about that. I'm pretty.
Yeah, walk there.
You gonna walk there?
Not today. That was the original plan, but it's so cold. I don't want to walk. I'm excited to see what the special egg roll is this week. I'll keep you guys updated on that.
So do you guys count Thursday nights as the weekend?
In college, I definitely did.
I was gonna say 22-year-old Tyler Springer or 21-year-old Tyler Springer definitely counted Thursdays.
Yeah, the weekend started on Thursday in college, but I don't know. Whew. And then Saturday, I got a board game night with the stepsisters. Pretty stoked about that. I bought the new Survivor board game. I think we're gonna play with that. See if I can be the sole survivor.
You love board games, huh?
Yeah.
Do you guys do card games at all? Like not like the 52 shoot like.
We have one called Cover Your Assets. That's pretty fun. That's a card game. Have you guys ever played the variation of Uno called Ugly Uno? That's a pretty fun game. You take 4 Uno decks, and it's the same as Uno, except for you forget about the turn order. You just play it as soon as you can play a card.
What's your favorite board game of all time?
My favorite board game of all time would be.
I was about to say something that no one has ever heard of.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna say something that no one's ever heard of. It's a game called Dominion.
Oh, I've heard
It's basically a card game. There's like a marketplace of 10 cards, and you basically build up a deck to gain more victory points than everyone else before the game is over. It sounds really, really dumb when I explain it like that, but if you play it, it's more fun than basically any board game that you've ever played. And
do you ever go to JCD and Hobby and play in their little game room?
No, the one no, that's not. Is that no? You want to go to Mayhem, which is right off of University there. Is that Windsor Heights or is that Clive?
I think it's
Windsor Heights.
I don't know.
It doesn't matter. Just look up.
Right on that side of.
I think so.
Just look up Mayhem. They have a board game night on Thursdays. That's a really welcoming crowd. That's pretty sweet, and they have pretty much any board game that you would ever want to buy. So if you want to support local, that's my favorite spot. JCD and Hobby is pretty sweet if you're looking to get a good deal on a used game, or actually kind of underrated half-price books. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that will sell their used board games at half-price books, and sometimes you can find a really, really good deal.
Interesting.
Sometimes I say if you go then there pretty much any typical day, what you'll see is just a lot of copies of the game Seen It. Do you guys remember that? They came with the DVDs, and you would watch it on your TV screen, and you'd have to answer the question.
Yep.
There's just so many copies of that game.
You have going on Sunday?
Sunday open house. So I know we weren't going to talk about real estate, but that's the only plan I have for Sunday right now.
I've been on for board games. I've been on a Ticket to Ride recently. I know probably a lot of people have played that in the past.
Ticket to Ride is a great game.
Like a year ago, and then at like Christmas time, we started playing it a bunch, and we've been on it. It's fun. Do you have
the My First Ticket to Ride for kids? Have you bought that yet? They have a kids version of it. That's one of the best kids board games. So once Isaiah gets old enough to play a board game, that's a great option. There's also the kids version of Catan is also really, really good. So
I've heard great things about Catan. That's one of those where I get kind of overwhelmed. Ticket to Ride is like me build train with same color.
Catan's not any more hard to learn than Ticket to Ride. If you figured out Ticket to Ride, you can play Catan.
Okay, fair enough.
So, Brady, what do you got going on this weekend?
Friday, I'm gonna work out. I do CrossFit, so I'm gonna do some of that. Then I'm gonna see the new Captain America movie. I'm a big Marvel guy, so I'm looking forward to that.
You can just skip it if you want.
I
already saw it. It's not very good.
You don't like it? I've heard mixed reviews.
I think Jesse and Ryder saw that this week.
It was one of those ones that Jen and I walked out of it, and we were like, "That's a movie," you know. There's nothing really we had bad to say about it, but there also was nothing that was like amazing.
But Thomas would have rather been playing a board game than at that movie. So
no, that's not true. The first year, this is a fun fact. The first year that Jen and I dated, we saw 38 movies in theaters.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah. And now we,
You were watching anything, huh?
yeah, I mean, it was just whatever came out that weekend, we would just go see it. Because we had,
You guys just didn't want to talk to each other, so like it was just a sit movie.
we like talking about movies. So we would go see a movie and then we would talk about it. But that was back in the day. Rest in peace to AMC. There's no AMC theaters anymore. But AMC used to have that membership, and it was $20 a month, and you could go see as many movies as you wanted. It was
That's why they don't exist anymore.
whatever. But Brady, let us know what you think of the new Captain America movie.
Yeah, I'll have to see. I'm a pretty big Marvel fan, but they haven't been like super great. I've got a lot of criticism recently, so I don't know.
The next few ones that they have scheduled to come out should be good. I think Thunderbolts is going to be good.
Saturation now. I don't watch them really. I've never really watched any of them. I think I saw the first Avengers, but I feel like it's very oversaturated. Like
I think the MCU is up to like
movies.
Yeah, the MCU is up to like 41 different ones, I think.
Yeah, like
between the movies.
At some point, it's like, where do you go from here?
Well,
I think that's where they're kind of getting. Like, they don't have anywhere else to go.
They're based off of comic books, and back in the day with comic books, when they would get to this point, they would just wipe the slate clean and start over. But they don't really want to admit that they needed to do that yet. So kind of are where we are. What do you got? What's going on this weekend, Brady?
And Saturday, I got baseball. I coach baseball up in Ames at 3Ts, the best baseball organization in the Midwest.
Cold day for baseball.
Oh, indoors.
Yeah, I was gonna say indoor facility, right? Pitchers and catchers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're not going outdoors yet, but then, other than that, I got a Lego I'm gonna do, and then open house on Sunday.
What Lego project are you working on?
My girlfriend got it for me for Valentine's Day. London skyline.
Yeah, that's dope.
Sick.
I got this actually right behind me.
How many pieces?
Ooh,
what is that?
Rocket ship.
It's a rocket.
It's actually Pharrell Williams. He had a movie about his life that came out in Lego. So that's
piece by piece.
Came out with. Yep, piece by piece. I don't do like a ton of Legos, but I just got these two recently, so it's cool. That London one's 468 pieces, so not a ton. It won't be a big one.
We got the Home Alone house a couple years ago. I bought that. We did that as me and Ryder really did it as a family, but that was incredibly detailed. But it's still up.
Props to you, Andrew.
I had a buddy that had the Titanic, and that was like 20,000 pieces, something like that. It's like one of the most expensive sets. It's crazy.
Yeah, I just showed a house like a week ago that the kid had. I don't know if it was the same one, but he had a Titanic Lego model in his room. I was like, I feel like that's something you should put in a lockbox during a show.
Yeah,
pretty valuable.
That's true.
This weekend, I am just going to watch a lot of basketball, I think. Iowa State plays Houston, 1 p.m. on Saturday, big matchup.
College game days there.
You and I plays Drake on Saturday.
Drake. Going to watch, just a lot of basketball. That's what I do oftentimes in the winter on the weekends. I have some showings on Saturday to a childhood friend. We're going to get started looking, him and his wife, we're going to get started looking at some houses. So that's always exciting, especially when you have a long-standing relationship with them. Sunday, I have to be forced to watch Big Ten basketball. So that kind of sucks. But hopefully hang out with some family. I need to get over to my grandma's house, my parents' house. So I'll be on the docket this weekend. Real chill weekend.
It should be warm enough to wash the car on Sunday.
Will it be? I thought it was looking like next Wednesday it'd be warm enough. But that's Andrew's job. My job is to show up to grandma's house and talk to her and get in her pantry and see what snacks she's got.
Sunday is a high of 45.
Okay. Yeah, that's car washing.
Do you guys all do, on the topic of basketball, do you guys all do March Madness brackets?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we'll do that. Yeah.
The worst ever at every single year.
My sister just
I-
picked mascots and has won the past 3 years in a row.
Yeah. Sometimes you know too much about basketball to pick.
Oh
I've got my older kids both have friend activities Friday night. So we'll just be hanging around our house, and then Saturday, Iowa State plays at 1. Maisie's got a basketball game at 2:30. So for the first half hour of her game, I'm gonna be watching my phone. I think in that morning, I think I'm going over to someone's house to kind of check out their home, talk about listing it, talk about doing a custom build that they're interested in doing. Sunday, we got church in the morning, open house in the afternoon for Drake. Really, it's kind of interesting. I don't know if you guys find this, but my weekends aren't really like what they used to be. Like you work Monday through Friday, then you have 2 days to do whatever you want. Now, like our weekends are working.
Another day.
And so like Tuesday's the day you don't do nothing or don't do anything.
Andrew, you go first, and then Thomas. What's your prediction for Houston versus Iowa State, Andrew?
I think Iowa State 65, Houston 61.
Thomas, UNI versus Drake. Thomas is a UNI fan.
Oh, I thought you were going to ask me Houston versus Iowa State.
You can give that prediction too.
Houston's going to win that game. They're the way more talented team. I don't know. Drake has not been playing very well lately, and UNI is kind of on a little good streak here. They're 8 of 9 in the last games that they've won. I don't know. I would expect. I mean, maybe the home court advantage for UNI just takes it over the top and they win it. But who's to say? Drake has definitely looked like the better team if you look at the whole year. But the last few games, UNI has looked a little better. So
UNI beat Drake at home last year.
Yes, my memory is failing me. I believe so. Yeah.
With not as good of a team, I don't think.
Yeah, UNI is definitely on paper is a better team this year than they were last year.
So that'll be a very, very, very good game, personally.
Well, and it's another year in the books where UNI has started somewhat slow, and Jacobson just turns them into a completely different team the week before the conference tournament starts. So, and yeah, because Drake has slipped up, if UNI wins, I believe they win the regular season for the conference. So
yeah, it's too bad that doesn't mean anything for the like the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, that's frustrating. Though they are talking about going to 78 teams or whatever. Which
I was just gonna ask this: if they expand it, don't they need to think about having the regular season champs and the tournament champs be an automatic bid, or does that just clog it up way too much?
I think that just like makes sure like Kansas or the Kansas like teams get like decent seeds that are historically really good but suck this year.
Yeah.
Hey,
I think
real quick,
water it down.
Real quick, back to Iowa State and Houston. Iowa State is 18-1 with Milan Momcilovic in the lineup. In the conference, Iowa State has either won by double digits or lost by double digits, with the exception of 2 games. They won at Texas Tech and they lost by 7 at West Virginia. So they either win comfortably or they lose convincingly. So
one thing I'd like to point out too, I think for the Iowa State Houston game, what is Houston's record against the top 25? Do you think, Thomas?
I don't know. I mean, what are they? Are they winning like 50% of the games or what?
And maybe I'll get fact checked. To my knowledge, they are 1-3 against the top 25. They beat. What are the Big 12 standings even looking like? Houston's still in the lead, right?
I mean, Houston's
Arizona, Iowa State.
I think if Houston wins, they're going to be comfortably in the driver's seat.
Yeah, are you looking that up, Andrew? I'm pretty sure Houston is 1-3.
Houston's 2-3 against the AP. Iowa State's 3-2.
Kansas. And Kansas, that's not really a good win.
Yeah, Iowa State's one of Iowa State's is Kansas also. So.
That's true. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Houston's 14-1 in conference. I think that's
Impressive.
I mean, the last 2 seasons there's 29-4. So
if Iowa State wins, and assuming they do decent in the Big 12 tournament, that kind of puts them in a position to be the 2 seed in the NCAA tournament.
they have them as a 2 seed right now. The way because of who lost this week. I mean, it's Bama lost last night. A&M lost. Purdue lost. Purdue lost last week too. I mean, they beat Houston. There's a chance they're right back in the top 4.
Okay.
You know, going into next week. So
sweet.
I think if they lose, it doesn't hurt them being a 2 seed. I think if they win, they have the potential. They have the runway to become a 1 seed still.
Depending on how they do in the Big 12 tournament.
Yeah.
They say that doesn't really matter anymore, though. Like
the tournament?
If you think about like what Iowa State did last year in the Big 12 tournament, they blew Houston out and then got stuck with the worst 2 seed you could get.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Either way, March, like we talked about with the brackets, you can just pick a mascot. And
I think if you're like a low
tournament,
I think if you're a high 3 seed and you win your tournament, maybe it moves you to a low 2 seed, kind of like what happened with Iowa State. But yeah, it's not going to like you're not going from a 7 seed to a 2 seed by winning your tournament.
Right. And I would need to wrap this up pretty quick because we're getting close to an hour. But I will say, as far as a team cheering for a team, I honestly don't like to see my teams do extremely well in the conference tournaments.
Get rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'd like to see them win a game, maybe 2. But when it seems like every time
as a UNI fan, that sucks because your team has to do good in the conference.
Yeah, they have to win it if they want to be in the tournament. Yeah. But
for Iowa,
that's just kind of the way the Missouri Valley is now. But every time Iowa goes on a run and wins the Big Ten tournament, they lose in the first round of the NCAA tournament.
I mean, Iowa State has had similar history of doing that too. You know, they went Sweet 16 last year, but if you look at their Sweet 16 teams, they generally don't win the tournament. So, I mean, I guess they maybe did that with DeAndre Kane, but anyways.
That's the pod.
Okay. That's the pod. Please like, share, subscribe, do all that, and we appreciate you guys watching.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.